People don't realize it, but sometimes a life can fall apart because of just one question. And my life changed the day I asked it. Not a dramatic question, not an accusatory one, just a simple line, "Where did this receipt come from?" That was it. 9 harmless words. 9 words that my husband Ethan never expected me to say. 9 words that slice through the carefully controlled version of reality he'd built for years. It was a Thursday night. I was sorting laundry, half distracted, exhausted after a long shift. I reached into Ethan's jeans and felt a piece of paper. A receipt. I pulled it out. It was from a restaurant I'd never been to, a place across town. Dated for last Tuesday at 8:47 p.m. Ethan had told me he was stuck in late meetings that night. No dinner break, no phone calls, nothing. But the receipt showed 2 entrees, 2 drinks, and 1 dessert shared. My heartbeat thumped in my ears. Before I could process it, Ethan walked into the room. He saw the paper in my hand, and he froze for half a second, long enough for any woman to see the truth. Then his expression softened. He chuckled the same practiced, soft chuckle he always used. "Oh, babe, that's nothing," he said. "Just a team dinner. You know how you get when you're tired." There it was. The sentence I'd heard 1,000 times. You know how you get. He took the receipt from my hand, kissed my forehead, and added, "Don't stress yourself over small things." Something in me snapped. Not loudly, not emotionally, quietly, because at that moment I realized something dark. Ethan didn't fear getting caught. He didn't fear lying. He didn't fear mistakes. He feared me learning to question him. And that receipt, small, crumpled, harmless, was the one clue that didn't fit into his perfect script. So for the first time in our marriage, I didn't let his calm tone smooth over my instincts. I didn't drop the subject. I didn't apologize. I simply looked him dead in the eyes and said, "I'm not tired." He blinked. He hadn't prepared for that. And that tiny moment, that one shift in power, was the beginning of everything unraveling. Ethan was the man every woman adored, the man who charmed my friends, the man who made my family feel safe, the man people praised as husband goals at every dinner party. He knew how to talk, how to listen, how to play the part perfectly. He cooked on weekends. He sent good morning texts. He bought me flowers after long weeks. But what they didn't see, what no one saw, were the subtle things. How he answered questions with questions, how he softened his voice when he wanted to shut down a topic, how he used patient smiles instead of answers, how he explained away every small inconsistency. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten, he didn't argue. No, he did something far more dangerous. He reconstructed my memories for me. If I said, "Didn't you say you'd be home by 7?" he'd respond, "Sweetheart, you misheard. I never said that." If I said, "You told me that meeting was canceled," he'd sigh and murmur, "That must have been another day. You mix up work stuff sometimes." If I said, "This doesn't add up," he'd rub my shoulder gently and whisper, "You're overthinking again." No malice, no anger, just gentle dismissal wrapped in affection. And for a long time, I believed him. I believed I was forgetful. I believed I misunderstood things. I believed I was emotional. I believed he was patient and I was flawed. But that receipt, that tiny piece of paper, it woke up something inside me. Because for once, there was proof. Physical proof. Time-stamped proof. A clue that couldn't be twisted by tone, charm, or gentle gaslighting. That night, Ethan held me and said, "You know I'd never hide anything from you." I didn't respond, because for the first time, I didn't trust a single word that came out of his mouth. And if he thought I'd dropped the subject, he had no idea who he married. The next week, Ethan said he needed to work late again, except this time, I didn't nod. I didn't accept it. I didn't collapse into silence like he expected. I smiled and said, "Sure, drive safe." He kissed my cheek and left. 10 minutes later, I grabbed my keys and followed his car. He didn't go toward his office. He didn't go toward downtown. He went to the same restaurant from the receipt. My chest tightened. I parked across the street. Ethan got out, checked his reflection in the car window, something he only did when meeting someone he wanted to impress, and went inside. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Then a woman arrived, tall, wearing a soft pink coat, hair curled, looking around nervously. Ethan stood up from the table and hugged her. Hugged her. Not a friendly pat, not a coworker greeting, a slow, familiar, gentle hug. My hands shook, but I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. I pulled out my phone and took photos. Then I took videos. Then I recorded timestamps, proof he couldn't gaslight away. He pulled out her chair. She laughed at something he said. He leaned forward the way he used to lean toward me. I sat in the car for 40 minutes watching, not dying inside, not breaking, just learning who he really was, learning how much he'd lied, learning how skilled he was at crafting 2 lives. When she finally left, he stayed another 10 minutes, looking at his hands, breathing slowly, probably rehearsing whatever story he'd feed me when he walked through the door. Later that night, he came home with his usual smile. "Work was exhausting," he said, kissing me. I stared straight at him. "What did you have for dinner?" He blinked, barely noticeable, but enough. "Just a salad from the office." Then he touched my cheek. "And did you eat?" That moment, that casual lie with gentle eyes, filled me with a new kind of clarity. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't shock. It was strategy. Because now I knew 2 things. He wasn't clumsy. He wasn't confused. He was deliberate. And deliberate men don't deserve emotional reactions. They deserve consequences. Following Ethan once wasn't enough. I needed to know the full truth. So over the next 2 weeks, I collected everything. Every message he deleted, every call he made in the bathroom, every team dinner he claimed to attend, every place his credit card appeared, every night he came home 10 minutes too late, and what I learned made my skin crawl. He had a routine, a pattern, a second life so carefully mapped that it made me sick. He wasn't meeting 1 woman. He was meeting 2. The woman from the restaurant? Her name was Alyssa. The second woman, based on receipts and messages, Julia. He told Alyssa he was separated. He told Julia he had marital problems. He told me he was working late. He didn't love either of them. He didn't love me. He loved the control. He loved being adored on 3 fronts. He loved being the misunderstood, overworked man everyone pitied. He loved the power of telling 3 different stories to 3 different women. But what he didn't know was that technology had outgrown his lies. Most men cheat with their hearts. Ethan cheated with his calendar. He had reminders, alarms, notes. He had written instructions on which lie he told to which woman. I found one note that made my blood turn cold. If Maya asks, say she's tired. If she insists, reassure. Reassure. He had scripts for manipulating me. Another note. Alyssa, sensitive. Julia, confident. Use different tone. He used tone as a weapon, softness as camouflage, gentleness as control. I took screenshots of everything, organized them by date, printed proof, saved copies to cloud storage. Every time he hugged me, every time he kissed my forehead, every time he said, "You're overreacting," I thought, "You have no idea I know." And that thought didn't make me sad. It made me powerful. He spent years building his lies. It took me 14 days to tear them apart. Ethan's power came from privacy. He lied one-on-one. He manipulated one-on-one. He dominated conversations one-on-one. So if I confronted him alone, he'd twist everything. But in front of witnesses, he'd crumble. So I planned a moment he couldn't escape. A Saturday brunch, a small gathering, at his favorite cafe, the one he bragged about introducing me to. I invited his mother, his brother, his aunt, and Alyssa, and Julia. Both women accepted. Both women had been lied to. Both were angry. Both wanted truth. We all sat at the table. Ethan walked in 5 minutes later, smiling brightly with a box of pastries. When he saw who was sitting there, His face drained of color. He actually stumbled. What is this?" he whispered. I handed him a folder. Inside were photos, receipts, screenshots, call logs, videos, the restaurant date, the hotel charges, everything. He looked at me, panic rising in his eyes. "Maya, this isn't fair. You're being emotional." His mother snapped sharply. "Don't you dare use that on her." Alyssa stood. "You told me she was abusive." Julia stood. "You told me she cheated." His brother added, "She never did any of that. You did." Ethan swallowed hard. His voice trembled. I can explain." I smiled. "That's the problem. You always explain." He opened his mouth, but not a single word came out. Because every lie he told one woman was disproven by another. Every story he fed me was contradicted by screenshots. Every excuse he rehearsed collapsed under evidence. He looked around the table, a man drowning in his own ocean of lies. I leaned forward. "You built a world where you counted on me never asking questions." He blinked rapidly. His throat tightened. I said softly, "But one tiny clue, one receipt, destroyed your entire life." The cafe was silent. He finally whispered, "Maya, please." I stood up. "No." His mother looked heartbroken, his brother disappointed, his aunt furious. And Ethan? Ethan looked like a man who finally saw himself clearly and hated what he saw. Ethan tried to stand, but his legs shook. He reached out toward me almost like a reflex. "Maya, listen, I'm sorry." "For what?" I asked. "For lying, for manipulating, for making me doubt my sanity?" He swallowed. "For hurting you," he whispered. Julia let out a bitter laugh. "You hurt all of us." Alyssa added, "You lied about everything." His mother covered her mouth. "I raised you better than this." He looked at me desperately. "I can change, I swear. I can explain all of this." I leaned in and said, "Explain it to them, then." He turned toward the table, 6 eyes piercing into him. He opened his mouth, and nothing came out. No story, no gentle tone, no calm dismissal. His greatest weapon, his voice, was useless. Because truth filled the room and lies had nowhere to hide. He sat back down slowly, defeated. "Maya, please don't leave." I placed divorce papers on the table. "I left the day you told me I was too emotional instead of telling me the truth." He stared at the papers like they were a death sentence. "This can't be happening," he whispered. But it was happening. Because for the first time ever, Ethan faced the one thing he feared most. A woman who finally questioned him. A woman who wasn't confused, wasn't emotional, wasn't apologetic. A woman who saw the truth with clear eyes and refused to blink. I stood up. "Goodbye, Ethan." He didn't follow. He didn't speak. He didn't even breathe loudly. He just sat there, silenced by the life he built with his own lies. I walked out of the cafe lighter than I had felt in years. No trembling, no crying, no regret, just pure clarity. Elisa hugged me. His mother apologized. Alyssa and Julia thanked me for the truth. I wasn't angry with them. They were victims just like me. Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I slept peacefully. I laughed again. I trusted myself. Most importantly, I stopped shrinking. I stopped explaining my feelings, stopped apologizing for asking questions, stopped letting someone else define my reality. Ethan tried sending messages, long paragraphs, voice notes, voicemails. I didn't listen to a single one, because his closure was unnecessary. The truth had already done the job, and silence, the very thing he once used against me, became my freedom. People imagine betrayal as chaos. But the worst betrayal is quiet. It comes in soft sentences, gentle tones, calm lies, words designed to make you doubt your own reality. Don't overthink. You're tired. You're emotional. You misunderstood. When someone uses calmness to rewrite your truth, that's not love. That's control. And the strongest revenge isn't shouting or exposing someone online. The strongest revenge is clarity, evidence, self-respect, walking away from the version of yourself that their lies created. Ethan believed I would never question him. He believed a soft tone could bury the truth forever. But one tiny clue, one receipt in a pair of jeans, ended his entire act. If you're listening to this, trust the small inconsistencies. Trust the quiet clues. Trust the moment your instinct whispers, something is wrong. Because the truth always shows up. And when it does, the person who thought you'd never ask questions will finally face the answers they feared the most.